Scientists are predicting historically dry conditions this summer after a big part of the country dealt with its worst fire season ever. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, droughts and wildfires have cost the U.S. more than $360 billion in the last 40 years. And those numbers are climbing. For more, let's bring in CBS News meteorologist and climate specialist, Jeff Berardelli. So, Jeff, how dry are conditions now?
Yeah, so I don't want to bury the lead on you. I'll tell you exactly how bad it is. This is the second worst drought in 1,200 years, Lana. And part of that is due to human-caused climate change, and part of it is due to a naturally dry cycle. So this is serious, and it's going to get more serious because this drought is likely to get worse and worse. So first, let me just show you this map right here. This is the drought index, the drought monitor. And where you see the darkest shades of red, that is exceptional drought. You can see it right there. So about 60% of the western U.S. is under severe, extreme, or exceptional drought. And here are some eye-popping factoids for you. I'll step out of the picture so you can look at them. First of all, this past winter, the wet season was not wet. We only had around 25 to 50% of the normal precipitation. That doesn't set us up well as we head into dry season, which is summer. Soil moisture content is the driest it's been in at least 120 years. Records only go back 120 years, so it likely goes back much further than that, but that's how dry the soil and vegetation is. 60% of the West, I mentioned this, covered in at least severe drought, if not worse. And Lake Mead on the Arizona-Nevada line is only at around 40% of its capacity. And Lana, here's the problem as we head through the next week or so. Stays wet with possibility of flooding in parts of the east, but in the west, look at that drought and look at the rain and snow on top of it. There's a little bit on the edges right here, but in the core of the drought, we don't see any rain anytime soon.
Jeff, as you mentioned, the western part of the country really had this mild winter. Talk to us about what that means for the water supply.
Well, the water supply is already low. It's been low for the past 20 years because of the drought that we're in. So as we head into summer, restrictions are already going into place. We're going to see a lot more restrictions as well. And also, again, we're heading into dry season. Now, last dry season in the Southwest was one of the driest ever across the Southwest. It was also one of the hottest ever, which is, kind of a 1-2 punch from Mother Nature. And the monsoon, which is, the summer monsoon in the West, as we get these daily thunderstorms that fire up. It's not much of one, but at least it produces some rainfall. It did not happen at all last summer. We have to hope and pray and cross our fingers that it does happen. But just to give you an idea, over the past 6 months, this is the percentage of precipitation in any given spot. Where you see the darker shades of brown, that is the record lowest amount of precipitation. And, Lana, take a look at snowpack over the West since 1981. So that's 1981. This is 2020. And you can see that line right there. It's been decreasing. In fact, it's dropped off by 25%. So you asked about water availability as we head into the summer and spring. So much of the necessary water for people's gardens, for agriculture, to prevent fires, is right here in the snowpack. Because the snowpack melts, it goes into the Colorado River and all the tributaries across the West. And without that snowpack, it does impact drinking water and water for other uses as well, big time. So, Jeff, it sounds very concerning, obviously, given the fire season that we just saw last year and these historic lows now. As you know, I grew up in Iowa for the agricultural industry. Mm-hmm. Droughts are killer. What can be done about all of this? Well, first of all, we have to agree, the states in the West, and they're trying to come to the next agreement because there are long-standing, going over more than a century, water rights issues in the West that complicate matters. Certain folks have water rights, others don't. There are certain folks that are at the end of the Colorado River where it starts to run dry. We have to come to agreements across the West on how to use water responsibly so everyone is able to use it. And people have to be more responsible in their water use as well. But the bottom line here is you can do all that stuff and it doesn't matter because human-caused climate change has raised temperatures across the West by 2 to 3 degrees in the past several decades. So because of that, you're getting a lot more evaporation. The atmosphere can hold more water, and so it's evaporating that moisture from the soil and vegetation and from the rivers. And so you can even get more rain, which we may see a teeny bit more rain over the next 100 years. We may see an upward trend across some parts of the West at least. But it doesn't matter because as temperatures increase, the evaporation overwhelms that. So unless we can stop global warming and climate change in its tracks, and the amount of people that are moving into the West, it's not going to be a great future for the West unless they can come up with some really phenomenal ways to manage this.
Pretty dire outlook there, Jeff. Thank you for telling us about it.